Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another weekly outlook. So today we're going to have a little look at an outlook for the start of May. So we are on the 30th of April today. We've got a new month starting from tomorrow, the 1st of May. So let's take a little look first of all at what news we've got coming up, looking with a focus on the pound, the yen, and the US dollar, as those would be our main currency pairs that we like to trade. So first up, obviously being in the UK, I'm thoroughly aware that we have a bank holiday on the British pound. Interestingly, we've also got one, it seems, predominantly across quite a bit of Europe as well. Then looking further ahead into the week, we've got a couple of bank holidays on Wednesday and Thursday on the Japanese yen, and Friday as well. In terms of other bits of important news, taking a good look at Wednesday, particularly we have Wednesday onwards, we have quite a bit of red folder news coming on. So some big news announcements coming this week. The big one that stands out to me would be this area here. So we've got the non-farm employment change first of all, and we've got the biggie here, which comes at 7 p.m. UK time, which is the federal funds rate, the interest rates for the US dollar, which look like they are set to be increased by 0.25%. So that'll be very interesting to see what the potential outcomes are of that and what impact that has on the market. Following that, we always get the press conference 30 minutes later, which often brings even more volume as Jerome Powell does his speech and announcement based on the decision that they've made. That often brings a lot of volatility to the market, so that's often worth a watch to see if there are some good trading opportunities available there, especially after the whipsaw reaction that you often find with the initial news announcement. Moving on, we've got more news coming on later in the week, and of course the big one at the end of the week, which is the non-farm payroll change and the unemployment rate. So that's often a good indicator again in terms of how the US economy is doing, and again has a big impact on the US dollar and gold, which we like to trade. So let's get to the charts now and have a little look what's coming up and what's been happening so far. So taking a little look on the monthly to start with, and then we'll kind of scale ourselves down. You can see that we've kind of been in this little range area for quite some time that we're just trying to break above, and it's been in this sort of ranging area between sort of like the 1700s and the 2000 area for quite some time. We're kind of going back to July 2020 at this point. So that's kind of the ranging area we've got, which is obviously a huge area. So let's look down a little bit further onto the weekly and see if we can just narrow that a little bit more. Now, if I were to just adjust this area a little bit more, because you can see when we look back at August 2020, we got those all-time highs of about 2070, 2075. So that's $2,075 per ounce of gold. So that's kind of about those all-time high areas, and you can see we've rejected off that sort of area once, twice, and we try to approach this again very recently and rejected off there again. So we're very keen in terms of gold of trading somewhere around and preferably under quite often that 2000 area. So from anywhere around that 2000 area, you often find a good rejection coming back to the downside. So you can see that pattern just coming down from here, and once again we had that same rejection coming down. So that would indicate to me potentially longer term here we're talking about, would it be likely that we will see this idea of coming back down to here. Now obviously it's not straight like that, you know, we're talking about a period of weeks and potentially coming back down to retest this sort of like 1700 area and so on. So that would be the first sort of thing that we may be looking for. The only thing that's actually going to take us up above that 2000 area and beyond, and any chance of coming anywhere close to retesting these all-time highs of 2070 would be some kind of major catalyst, some kind of world event that has not already been priced in. So for example, you know, if the Taiwan China sort of thing escalated, something like that, Putin does something that hasn't already been sort of preempted by the market and so on, anything along those lines, any kind of major disaster in the world, that would trigger a big push on gold. But apart from that, we're not really going to be retesting those areas anytime in the near future, I wouldn't imagine. So let's look down and just scale that down a little bit more onto the daily time frame at this point. So we'll just bring that on a little bit bigger so we can see it in a little more detail. What we can see at that point, apart from that range sort of area we were just talking about a little earlier, so we can just adjust our zones as we kind of come down these time frames to make them a little more accurate. So they look pretty good so far. And then what we'll be able to see at that point is we've obviously got like an area of rejection around here, which if we look to the right hand side then starts to form this area of support that we've got there, which looks pretty good and quite accurate. And obviously this, because we're on the daily at this point here, you know, we're kind of going back to sort of you know, the back third of March and most of April at this point. So then we can kind of see that it has very much been in a ranging market at that point. You know, we've got some really clear traffic. If we were to break below this sort of like 1950s area, just under 1940 and so on, we'd have a pretty clean press down. That big rejection that we were on about on the monthly time frame, that would probably be pretty good. And like I say, to get up above anywhere near and retest in this area, you know, is going to require some kind of good catalytic event to take place with that. Let's scale that down a little bit more onto the 4 hour at this point, and we'll have a little look in a bit more detail and see if we can mark off some key areas. So again, you can see it's found some very, very strong support down at that 1972 area, and look at how many times we have rejected off of that area. So that's obviously a very key area for us. And we've also got something a little bit further up here. So if we look around this 2011 area, again, like I say, it does often struggle to trade above that 2000 area, and certainly above 2010 you would be looking for buys up above that point, because you often get very clean moves up there. Apart from that, we've been in this kind of not very nice ranging market of late. So I know this is obviously a very big range. We're talking about sort of like close to 350 pips there, but it's not very clean at all. And again, moving down onto a lower time frame of the hourly and so on, taking a little look even further at that point, we've got this sort of area of resistance around that sort of 1995, really trading above you know, sort of like 1998 and so on. You might get a little bit more of a push up above 2003, again a little bit more of a push, but you'd be very wary of all these kind of wicks to the upside. And again, similarly, you might get some clean moves coming down, but looking at all of these rejection wicks and so on, it is not the nicest. Gold is not the cleanest at the moment. So hopefully what we will hoping for towards the back end of the week are some cleaner moves with the big news events that are coming to give us a really good clear picture of direction. So if we look at the 4 hour there, you can see that we have been quite bullish of late. We've done a lot of time here now. Bear in mind, like I say, we're going back to sort of the 20th of March, so the back third of March and all of April. We're talking about a sort of 5-6 week period at that point of just doing a ranging market with no real clear direction. You can see we had a good clean direction down, we had a good push up to the upside. We need some market direction at this point. Okay, so what we've got right now, we have kind of come down a little bit. It needs to make a decision, say, right, okay, at this point, are we going to just come up and retest this area and come down? That would be one possibility. We may then also say, right, okay, we might actually come up to this area to retest to then push down. That would be a possibility. Or what we might actually see is just, okay, it's going to come below here, it might retest that area, and then we're going to go. Unless we got some kind of catalyst which is going to say to us, right, okay, gold is going to start to push up. But of course, what we need to take into consideration are the decisions that the Fed are currently making at the moment with their monetary policy, with their interest rates and so on. And it's this whole idea and this narrative of dollar domination. That's basically what they're trying to get with. And if that dollar domination is going to take the forefront of this, then of course gold is going to sell off in turn, and the Dixie, the US dollar index, is going to be driving and pushing up and gaining strength. So at the moment, gold doesn't have any clear direction. We'll be looking for news a little bit later in the week, but that's our kind of little breakdown for the time being to see where we are. We don't have any clear direction. We need to wait to then see, right, okay, are we going to get a nice push to the upside and try and fill that clean area there, or are we going to get a nice push to the downside and fill these kind of nice clean moves underneath there? Okay, so that's what we're waiting for on gold. Let's see what happens over the next week. Okay, on to GBP JPY. So let's take the same approach again. We'll go with the monthly outlook first of all. Now, of course, we had a huge push on the monthly in April. We had quite a big push to the upside, and what was really interesting there was just seeing, did we close above this little area here? That's what I'd be curious about. Now, it would very much depend on where our zone is here at this point, but it does look like we may have just broken above this key area of sort of 1970, just heading towards 1971. Okay, so that's the first thing what I'm looking at. So we closed at sorry, not 1970, 171. So we closed at 171.062. So we did close above that 171 area on Friday, which was a really big day on Friday, a big push, which actually carried most of the weight of the monthly move. Now you can see because of the stance that the Bank of Japan have been taking recently with their really quite lackadaisical approach to tightening of their monetary policy, and of course in turn because of that the pound has been gaining strength for quite some time. The pound has basically been gaining strength against the yen since the lockdown back in sort of like March, April time of 2020. We've been in this bullish uptrend from that point. Now, looking on a weekly time frame, first of all, like we say, we feel like we've just broke above that area, which it looks like we have done at the sort of end of October. So we've tried to push above there again. It'll be interesting to see whether we can trade above that 171 area. Just trying to kind of look to the left a little bit to see what happens last time we were doing that. So last time we got a little break above there, we retested the area and then continued to push up. So it'll be very interesting to see if we can actually achieve that this time around. And again, I think a lot of that will be determined on what the Bank of Japan come out and say. Now, taking a little look at that, we obviously have a little area of reaction around here. So whether you want to call that support down here, resistance to the left, support on the right, and that's kind of caused this little ranging area. Of course, you can see when news events have triggered particular things and so on as well. But it'll be really interesting to see on the weekly time frame, can we get like a little retest down here to then continue back up? That would be quite interesting over the next week or so. Let's break that down just a little bit more on the daily so we can get a little bit more detail on this now. So on the daily time frame, like I say, we've got that kind of break above there. What's really interesting though, if we were to adjust our zone ever so slightly, is it does look like it's just kind of tapped into that sort of 171 area, which it's obviously struggled to break above before. So it'll be really interesting to see if we can break those highs of maybe 171.30, probably heading towards 171.50 really, because that's going to be a key psychological area. If we can actually get up above there, I think we could continue to the upside, and again largely determined by the Bank of Japan, I would suggest. Looking on a 4-hour time frame at this point then, so what has taken place on, again you can still see on that 4-hour time frame we've got this very much bullish push to the upside there. So let me just show you that with a little trend line of some kind. So we've got this sort of very bullish push to the upside there, just to try and kind of analyze that. And that's just giving us our very clear direction. So for me, I think that we're going to get that sort of continuation on here. So even if we pull that up here, we might get a scenario where we get a little sort of retest of that. We might get the idea of just creating some higher lows and continuing in that trajectory until the point where some kind of news event is going to take place, at which point we break below that trend line. So if that trend line was going to continue for a moment, I think at the point where we can then get that to come and retest, what we basically get at that point is we would get a break of market structure, because we would be breaking below the lows that have been created here, the higher lows. Once we get that break of market structure, at that point we would come back down. For me, I don't see that happening for quite some time, so I wouldn't be expecting that anytime in the near future, to be honest with you. 1 hour time frame, again, you can very much see this from last week. This was from Friday, so take a look at this key area here on Friday. We got this big push up. Okay, we actually caught a couple of trades on here, so I think we ended up getting in around about here, so I think somewhere around 7 a.m. we got a big push up there. We also took a second trade around here again and caught a little bit of the push up, so that was quite nice on Friday. Looking at that, so we've got a big area here where we broke above, and at that point it was just a free fall. We had all this space to the left, and remember, when you're looking to execute trades, all you're looking for is just clean candles, and when you had super clean candles to the upside, that's where we were heading. Okay, so in terms of market structure, what we could really do with now is a little bit of time being done here. So we really need this area to do a little bit of time to then do a continuation going up. For me, sells on GJ at the moment, I'm not really going to be looking for them. The reason being, like I say, the comments that are being made on the Bank of Japan, the Japanese government and so on, they've just, they've been making comments, and that does not lend itself well to sells, i.e. it's not giving the Japanese yen any strength against other currencies at the moment. And for me, I'm going to look for a continuation in the GBP strength against it for that reason. So I'm not going to be looking for sells anytime in the near future on the Japanese yen, unless we get, on a much smaller time frame. So I like to trade off the 15-minute, for example. So we're looking at the 15-minute. If we got something that was really, really clean, we got a little break below this area, for example, I might look for a little trade in that area, because you're going to be able to pick up a nice 30 pips or something. But longer term, I certainly won't be looking for GJ sells. So that's it mostly for this week. So it should be an interesting week, hopefully. Hopefully the markets move a little bit cleaner and nicer than they have throughout most of April. It's been quite a slow month. We've got some very big news events coming up this week. Best of luck to everybody for your trading week. Remember, we've got a free Telegram group if anybody wants to join that and get some trade ideas and setups and so on. Get a little outlook for the day each day and things. And of course, there are a few little discount codes and things available for various stuff. Available in there, as well as in the description below. As always, any comments, feel free to make them below, and I'll be happy to take any questions and answer feedback and so on as well. Have a great week. Hope it's a winner for you, and we'll see you again soon.